Everybody, go ahead and get your cameras on. And it's time to start our MBE session for today. Let's get those cameras on. All right. So before we give a couple minutes for everybody to, get off of work, get situated, get in, give people a couple more minutes. I'm curious to hear how the ones that attended the previous essay sessions, if you got a chance to implement or anything like that. Um, Let me go to Star. Star, I think I remember you from yesterday. Were you there? Is that correct, Star?
Yes, I was here yesterday. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, just fine.
Okay. Sorry I can't be on camera. I'm actually still at work and I have lots of people around me. I'm sorry.
Ah, no worries, no worries. So, did you get a chance to do any practice essays since yesterday?
I started with contracts because I know you said contracts should not be that hard, but contracts is a hard one for me. So I did. I've been working on contracts all day today.
Okay, good. And so, how was it, on your own implementing some of those strategies that we discussed yesterday?
It wasn't hard because I kept the outline right here next to me, and I timed myself. So my issue is timing. I write entirely way too much. And then I start to panic when I run out of time. So today, when I kept the outline right next to me, it was easy just to stay focused on what the issues were at hand and not to try to overly explain something. I was
Yeah,
just able to talk about what the applicable law was and just hit those things, in a sequential pattern. So it helped. I
good.
still got to get better with my confidence, but it
Yeah,
helped. I
good.
do want to say that you guys are probably the most realistic program that is
Mm.
out there. You explain it in a way that's understandable, that the way my brain works. It's so understandable and relatable. So I just truly appreciate it.
You're so welcome, Star. I appreciate that compliment, and I'm glad. That's exactly why we created this, was to speak to what is, I would believe, a large population of people who's looking for something like that, something real,
Yes.
relatable, etc. So I'm glad you found us and we found you. And
Thank you.
yeah. And then one last little tidbit that I wanted to give you, because I know that finding that cadence and that pacing, is a challenge.
Hmm.
And, it's like the thing about bar writing, as we were talking a little bit about yesterday, it's that like there's no absolute. There's no
Right.
always do element by element breakdown or always do summary style or always do a counter argument or always don't. And so even that sense of how much and when, remember that it is something that you have to look at the variables in each essay to
Hmm.
kind of help guide you. And all that to say, at the end of the day, make sure you remember that those sample answers are also really the best guidance you can get for trying to
Okay.
assess if you're being too long or everybody too short. And
Okay.
yeah, which is why I highly recommend when you are doing practice essays, especially in the beginning stages, Star, I'm a big fan of, let's say you have a whole essay, right? And you got
Hmm.
10 issues, and, let's just say six, more realistic. And let's say the first issue is offer. And
Hmm.
I highly recommend you analyze offer, right, in your own way, and then immediately look at the sample answer for offer. So you get that immediate feedback of, did I do too much? Did I not do enough? How did
Yeah.
they do
Yeah.
it? And then you get that
Yeah.
instantly. And then now you can automatically try to implement that for the next analysis,
Right. Okay.
right? As opposed to when we do it traditionally, where we do an entire essay and then read the sample answer all at the end. Well, now we got to wait till the next whole essay to try to implement maybe some of the things we learned. Whereas now you get to do one, see if you can pick up, okay, all right, let me try that again the next time. And now you're kind of getting these more jabs in. That makes sense?
That makes sense. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Awesome.
Miss Aubrey, if I'm not mistaken, from law school, they told us to look at offer, acceptance, consideration.
Yep, those are that's the mutual assent elements right there.
Right.
Absolutely.
So once we listen to the offer that someone has, we ask ourselves the question: can we do what they ask us to do? The offer. So that helps us. Is you got to give a date and a time to make sure that you're in that window, and then the consideration is the offer, consideration, and acceptance. Yeah, because you got to then at the end complete that in the time that they said that they wanted to do.
Exactly.
If
Yeah, so
not, then you can be not sued, but you can be reprimanded from not making the window.
And so we might get a little detached from some of our rules because you want more verbatim rules as far as timing and all that stuff. But as you touched on, as we talked on yesterday, time management for all of this stuff is extremely key, right? But all that to say, we are about 9 minutes in now, so it's time to switch gears and jump to multiple choice, which I'm super excited to jump into. So, yeah, without further ado, everybody, let's go ahead and get started with our presentation. Give me a second. Let me go ahead and share screen here. All right, so today is breaking. One second. Today is breaking down the bar, and we're going to talk about what high performers do and how they approach the MBE. First thing we're going to do is jump straight to a hypo, actually. So look, let me get the iPad going already. Start meeting. Oh, and actually, you know what? I could pull this up on the computer. Okay, so here's your first question. And I want everybody to go through this question, okay? Write down your answer choice, and I'm going to give you an opportunity to submit it. Don't put it in the chat. I'm going to pull up a poll, and you guys are going to be able to put in your answer. But yes, go ahead and do question number one. Okay. I'm going to stop share and put this polling thing up so you guys can submit your answer. All right. Allow. So it should be baked into your Zoom. You should see question one come up, and then you have the opportunity to select your answer. Again, let me go ahead and pull the question back up for you. If you have any problems with the Zoom feature, here's a link that you can use as well. Pull it up in your web browser. All right, about half of us have gotten our answer choices in. Okay, last opportunity before I close the voting. Got a little bit more than half. Get your answers in. All right, so I'm going to lock the voting. I'm also going to show you guys the results. We're going to lock this in. We're going to come back to this question at the end of the class and see what the right answer is. And if 77% of us were correct, 77% chose B, 23% of us chose C, those between those two. And we're going to come back to it. But to get started with this session, the first thing that we want to talk about as we go back to the slide deck here is process, right? Most students don't have a knowledge problem. They have a process problem. So I'm curious. Let me go to Mike. Mike, are you available to unmute? Okay, moving on next to Gladys. Gladys, you available to unmute? Okay, we're gonna do one more. Three strikes and we're out. I'm gonna go to BJ. BJ, are you there? Okay, what's going on, everybody? I thought we were here to learn. I need some cameras on and some participation going on. Jose, there you go. Jose, walk me through what was your process? You got this question, you started going through it. Tell me what is your system, if you have one, on how you go through questions.
For multiple choice questions, I usually start off by reading the call of the question first, right? I completely ignore the answer choices. I kind of like put a paper over them or I just don't ignore them. I
Okay.
read I read the call of the question first, and then after I read the call of the question, I read the fact pattern, and then I see where the issue in the fact pattern relates to the call of the question, right? Like which facts point to the question being asked. Kind of like when you mentioned yesterday, right, about how what is the problem in the facts, right? What are these people arguing about, and
Hmm.
how do those facts then point to the call of the question?
Okay. And then we read the question, and then after we read the question, where do we go from there?
And then look at the answer choices. After I read the
Okay.
question, read the fact, then I go to the answer choices, and then I completely eliminate the ones that don't even talk about the facts at all. So
Okay.
there's always like one or two questions, at least in my practice, that are completely just off. Like
Yep.
they're just completely off.
And then
Um,
typically there's one or two that sound really good, right?
right. And they sound really similar. And it'll just be like one or two word choice difference. So one will say, you know, plaintiff must, or plaintiff may, and then say pick right. And that's where I usually I'll pick those two, and then I'll say, well, is it absolute or is it not? And then I'll usually pick a choice off of that.
Okay. So Jose, what I wanna start off with, everybody, that I wanna compliment Jose in is that he has a system. First and foremost, everybody has to have, just like we talked about yesterday, a repeatable process. When you are freestyling the bar exam, that is not a good place to be. Okay? You need to be prepared with a repeatable process for how you go through each style of question. With that said, Jose, I'm going to give you today some things to consider on how I believe you can upgrade that process. And some of the things we're going to keep of what you did, but we're going to also add in some things. Before we jump into it, right, let's talk about where most students go wrong and how we kind of end up in some of these common issues. So, where most students go wrong. Most students approach the MBE with controlled panic. They rush through the facts, search for the answer choices that feel right, and second guess themselves throughout the process. Instead of slowing down and analyzing with structure, they rely on instinct, memory, and hope. Right? So again, a lot of us do is we go through the question and we're looking for the right answer to pop out at us. And again, maybe we do some process of elimination first to rule out one or two. But the issue is, right, as Jose highlighted for us, the bar exam is not like undergrad multiple choice where it's like there's one clear answer, it's popping out. If you remotely did the work, it's going to be clear. No, these answer choice are designed to be very tricky. And they're designed for two of them to sound really good, one to sound really good and be wrong, one to sound good and be right. So it's actually, in my opinion, an extremely flawed system to rely on that method for going through multiple choice. And again, if you find yourself always stuck between two answer choices, it's because you're leaning on the answer choices to sound better, one better than the other. So we're going to talk about, again, how we can change that. But as a result, many students feel like they're constantly crossing their fingers rather than confidently working through the questions. This is not how the high-performing students do it. High-performing students rely on routine, strategy, and disciplined legal analysis. They trust their process instead of reacting emotionally to every question. Okay, so again, big on the repeatable process. This system that we're going to essentially overview today, we're going to walk through and I'm going to give you some of the key principles of our system. The idea is that we're going to improve all of these things: reading comprehension, issue spotting, memorization, application, analytical accuracy, answer choice evaluation, pattern recognition, and long-term retention. All things that essentially go into you passing the multiple choice. Okay. All right. So compared to yesterday was a little bit more instructional because we had some like really intense systems. Today, we're going to live in some practice questions. So we are now going to go over to the iPad and get started on these questions. Let me share screen here. Perfect. All right. We have question number 2. So the way we're going to do this today, everybody, is for each question, I'm going to introduce a skill. We're going to use that question to highlight that skill. Today's focus is not on substantive law. So I am going to give you what the right answer is for each question. However, that is not where we're living. We're not going to spend too much time trying to break down the law if we don't get it. That's for another time. But today is really to learn the strategy for how to go through questions. All right, so for this first one, the lesson for this first question is going to be reading with intention. For all those that came yesterday, we practiced this. This is the exercise of humanizing the fact pattern, connecting with it, giving yourself permission to have fun with it. So let me walk you through how I read with intention. First thing that we're going to do is we're going to skim the answer choices. So Jose, that's going to be a little different, right? And I agree with you that we don't want to dive deeply into it, but I like to skim the answer choices because I can get some soft clues for what subject and maybe even what topic. So, Jose, when we're looking at these answer choices here, I'm seeing injunction, I'm seeing loss of rental value, but not an injunction. Defendant secured government approvals for new building. Sunshine continue to reach the windows. Okay, so what subject are we likely in, Jose?
Property.
Property. And do you have any idea possibly what subject in particular?
That looks like equitable relief because I heard it because I read injunction.
Injunction, so maybe some remedies, legal right to have sunshine, that might ring a bell.
Real property.
That's just the subject. Uh-huh. We're still looking for that specific topic, right? Possibly easements, everybody, right?
Hmm.
Negative easements, no legal right for sunshine. All right, so you only want to spend 5 seconds at max, 5 to 10 seconds max, skimming the answer choices just to get grounded. You can't spend forever here, but if it comes to you, great. If it doesn't, it's okay. All right, then we get into our fact pattern. A plaintiff and a defendant owned adjacent parcels of land. All right. Now, again, I'm big on diagramming and reading comprehension. So, again, the first thing that I do for all questions, and it helps, is I just diagram and jot things down as I read. So, I'm just going here immediately that we got plaintiff and defendant own adjacent parcels of land. On each of their parcels was a low rise office building. The two office buildings were the same height. Perfect. That's already what my diagram happened to do. Last year, the defendant decided to demolish the low-rise office building on her parcel to erect a new high-rise office building of substantially greater height on the parcel as permitted by zoning and building ordinances. She secured all governmental approvals necessary to pursue her project. Again, Jose, in your own words, summarize what we know from this paragraph.
Two different parcels, and the issue now is that one of the owners, being defendant, is building a much taller building than the adjacent owner.
Mm-hmm. And what do we also know that the fact pattern was very specific about?
That it's per the zoning and building ordinances.
That's fair, right? I think they're very specific about that, and that's something to take away from this paragraph. Everybody is that all right? And, as far as the city and the government is concerned, all of this is fine and legal. So we'll do with that as we may once we figure out what law is triggered, but that is what it's telling us. All right. As the defendant's new building was in the course of construction, the plaintiff realized that the shadows it would create would place the plaintiff's building, in such a deep shade. So remember, we always want to identify the injury or why they're upset. It's the same thing. These are essentially just miniature essays, right? So we already see now that she realized that it would create shadows and put her in such a deep shade that the rent she could charge for the space would be substantially reduced. So now she's upset ultimately because of money that she's going to lose because of this deep shade caused by the other building, right? Reading comp. Next, the plaintiff brought an appropriate action against the defendant to enjoin the construction in order to eliminate the shadow problem and for damages. All right, so now you got P versus D, and what do they want? To basically stop an injunction to stop them from building this high rise. The plaintiff presented uncontroverted evidence. What does uncontroverted evidence mean, Jose?
Like undisputed.
Yeah, it's undisputed. There's nothing going against it. Okay. The plaintiff presented uncontroverted evidence that her evaluation as to the impact of the shadow on the fair rental value of her buildings was correct. In our own words, what is that basically telling us?
That she is guaranteed to suffer an injury.
Yeah, she's not lying, right? Like this is an actual injury. Good. That's all it is. Translate as we go. There is no statute or ordinance other than the building and zoning ordinances that is applicable to the issues before the court. So that's just basically telling us there's nothing there that's relevant. Do not talk about ordinances, zoning, things like that. All right. So, Jose, before you even now look at the answer choices, as we're going to be talking about with the other questions as well, it's that now you have to try to spot the issue here as far as what's triggered. So the question is, can anybody tell me what is the specific topic within real property that we're dealing with?
But looking at what's a parcel on the low rise building from the
Mm-hmm. And look, you gotta come with just the answer. You can't read it with me. So yeah,
oh
yeah. So
well I was looking at they're looking at what's the low rise cost versus the new construction of the higher cost, which actually has no variance on anything.
okay, but what I'm needing is the way we want to look at
Easement.
this. Easements. And just also to everybody, let's start to raise our hands actually. Raise our digital hands and then I'll call just so that way too we don't talk over each other. But yes, this is going to trigger easements because at the end of the day, we're looking to see if one person can stop another person from erecting a high rise. When you look at your property outline, let's see, we never even have our property folder system. We talked about this legally fit folder system the other day, yep. So what you have here is everything you need to know on property is within one of these folders, right? One of these levels. Jose, are we trying to acquire property here?
No.
Nope. Is this present estates and future interests?
No.
Nope. Is this two people owning the same piece of property?
No.
Is it landlord tenant?
No.
Nope. And then we know it's not other. We're talking about what other is. This is non-possessory interest in land. You're trying to control and have some interest in somebody else's other land and how they use it. So that's where we're going to go. Now you go to your second level for non-possessory interest in land. Here are your options: covenants, easements, license, and profit. All right. And so is this going to be covenants, easements, license, and profit? It's already been shared. This is going to be an easement. A license is when you have basically an irrevocable easement. Profit is when you can go on somebody's land to extract stuff. That's not it. And covenants is when two people enter into an agreement that they will or will not do something with their land. There was none of that. So really, you're only left with easement. So everybody, this is the reminder that when a bar writer, right, multiple choice question creator is making a question, realize that they are starting off with an area of law from an outline that they want to test. Then they're creating a fact pattern around it, slapping some answer choices, making one sound really good but wrong, right? And then they present it to you. You want to reverse engineer that question and you want to get it down to the actual law being tested. Okay. Let's go back to the question and let's see if you guys can get the right answer. I'm going to go ahead and put the Slido active, give you guys just a second to put your answer for number 2 and tell me what you think it is. So again, we have identified that this is an easement question. Okay, votes are coming in and we are all over the place. Some of us are right, some of us are wrong. Kristen, which answer choice did you go with?
My disclaimer is I haven't had property yet, but by deductionism, I picked B.
Okay,
I'm
okay.
trying to find what fits closer to the facts of the issue. So the issue was easement. I do understand what that is. And then like the legal right to sunshine doesn't sound like we have one. So I just guessed. So it's an educated guess.
There we
I
go.
picked B.
And so for our workshop today, all is fine. But in theory, Kristen, whether it's because we haven't gone through a subject or it's because we don't know the rule yet, that is what we want to avoid with much of our practice. And so I'm going to show you today, we'll get to it eventually, of how you avoid that, but I appreciate you still giving it a shot. So everybody, I'll quickly say that the answer here for this one is going to be D. Okay. Again, I'll give you a quick explanation, but then we're going to move on because we want to get to the next lesson. The answer is D here. One of the other big lessons is do not let your emotions get you on these exams, right? Kristen, we could easily find ourselves emotionally feeling for the plaintiff, right? Like, what the hell? You gonna build a sky rise next to my place, and now I can't rent my place out for the same amount of money. You've ruined everything. I should be able to sue you and keep you from doing this. However, you need an actual application of legal doctrine to get legal outcomes. And so, under the circumstances, we know there's no violation of ordinances. So, at best, this is going to be, everybody, a negative easement, right? Because a affirmative easement is when you get to use somebody's land. A negative easement is one that prevents. However, a negative easement has to be created. And there are no facts of creating an easement between the two parties. So this is just simply a question that was testing your confidence and guts and realizing that, yeah, even though it sucks for the plaintiff, the defendant didn't do anything wrong here. So simply the answer choice should be D. Grant judgment for the defendant because the plaintiff has no legal right to have sunshine continue to reach the windows of her building. Okay? All right, so let's go ahead and move on to the next question. Kristen, let's go ahead and stick with you. So for this next question, we're going to try to implement the two things that we just did. And I want to do reading comprehension, and I want you to try to do and imitate what I just did as far as after each sentence, what's going on. Feel free to diagram. If you're diagramming, tell me how you're going to diagram. And then also at the end of it, pinpointing the specific subject and topic. All right, so go ahead and try to follow those steps that we just did, starting with skimming the answer choices.
Oh, this is backwards because I'm always reading the call of the question first. Give me a second.
Okay.
Okay, I read the answers.
And so what subject does it look like we're in?
Negligence?
Okay, it's
It's a
not gonna
tort? No?
not gonna be tort. And you can look at the one
Um,
line right before the answer choices too, but even like here at inadmissible, admissible, admissible is typically a
mhm.
hint for which subject.
I don't know.
Evidence. Yep.
I haven't taken that class either. So evidence.
There you go. There you go. So you're learning something today. So
Yes.
whenever you see inadmissible, admissible, most likely is going to be evidence.
Okay.
All right. So then let's go ahead and read our question and try to again do that reading comp thing that we talked about.
Okay. With each sentence. Okay. A plaintiff sued the defendant for damages for injuries that the plaintiff incurred when a badly rotted limb fell from a curbside tree. So he was injured, obviously, by a tree in front of the defendant's home, and it hit the plaintiff. The defendant claimed that the tree was on city property and thus was the responsibility of the city. At trial, the plaintiff offered testimony that a week after the accident, the defendant had cut the tree down with a chainsaw. And with the chainsaw, the offered evidence is
Okay.
uh,
And so before we even get to the answer choices, just kind of hide it again. I just really want you to talk to me, Kristen. You seem like a cool person. I want you to just level with
thank
me
you.
on
So
like,
basically, somebody was
yeah.
walking by a house and they were um, struck by a tree that's on the sidewalk, which would be assumed that it's public property because it's not actually on the residence, or if it's an extension of my property that proceeds beyond the sidewalk. So then we're trying to find out if the homeowner is responsible for the plaintiff's injury from the tree.
Okay, so one, I love the personality and I love the connecting with it. The only thing that it's missing is a full kind of like picking up everything that they're putting down. There's something that's
Okay.
a little fishy here, Kristen, that you did not mention.
About he cut the tree down a week
So I need
after
you to,
the sorry, he
yeah.
cut the tree. All the facts, let's get it out. So then the defendant cut down the tree that he alleged belonged to the city and
So
wasn't his.
what's odd about that?
That I wouldn't cut down a tree that belongs to the city without city permission because I would be breaking some kind of ordinance or
Yeah. Or I just
city
wouldn't do it.
something.
Why am I spend my time and money and energy? That's the
Call the
city.
city. Right.
Exactly. So
Hmm.
that's the part that everybody, the reading comp has to catch for you is, okay, this person is saying, yeah, I know you got injured in front of my house, but that wasn't my fault because that was the city's fault. But then turns around and he's the
But
one doing maintenance on the tree.
his actions show that it seems as if he would feel responsible or that he knew it was a problem and didn't, circumvent it.
Exactly.
So that's why he cut the tree down. So it looks like him cutting the tree down should be admissible. Inadmissible. Wait, hold on. Let me
Well,
go back and
stop.
read.
Yeah. Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. Yeah, exactly. Because that's what
I
we
gotta
don't.
stop.
Yes, because what I want you to get out of the habit of, Kristen, which I said, I want you to do very few questions where you don't know what's going on, because we do get in the habit of just going with logic, and that is the
Right.
like ultimate culprit here. Every
Okay.
single time, it's a robotic, what is my rule? Right? So
Okay.
this is in theory going into, again, probably the next issue we're going to talk about, but for most questions, I want you to have your outline by your side,
Hmm.
right? And I want you to look up the rules. So I'll go ahead and again, you haven't taken property yet, or excuse me, evidence yet, but there's a
Okay.
specific rule that's being tested. Could anybody else put it in the chat? Can you guys type it into the chat for me? Do you see what specific topic this is? Let's see if I have evidence already. Yep, Julio and Mike, that is correct. Subsequent remedial measures. So, what we want to do, Kristen, is, oh, look, and we already have it right here. That was perfect. What we want to do is go to our rule and analyze per our rules. So, feel free to read the rule.
Subsequent remedial measures. Evidence of subsequent remedial measures are inadmissible to prove negligence. See, I got something right. I said negligence. Design defect in a product's liability case or other culpable conduct. However, they are admissible to prove ownership or control if disputed. Feasibility of precautionary
Precautionary.
measures? Precautionary, sorry, if disputed, or destruction of the evidence, which is what he did. You want me to keep reading?
I don't think you don't need to necessarily read the notes. I think you have enough there. So now I want you to apply that rule to our facts and tell us if evidence of him cutting down the tree is going to be admissible
Per
based
the
off of this.
rule of subsequent remedial measures, it would be admitted because of the destruction of the evidence.
Okay, so let's go back to our
Question.
Let me ask you a question. Would
oh,
would not would
Dr.
not the
Gavin, man, you gotta raise your hand, man. We
oh
talk
sorry
about
I,
this.
I'm sorry. Would not the rule for the lettered hand come in play if
No.
it
Uh-uh.
it would come in play there?
Nope, because this is not, we're not asking if they're negligence. The hand formula is a question of will he be guilty of negligence? And that's where we got to pay attention to our call of the question, because all the
Right.
call of the question is saying is the evidence admissible?
Admissible
If
or not admissible.
if it was, will D be guilty, then now we'd be in torts. So yeah,
Mhm.
no hand formula there. Um, yes, Saima, and correct me if I'm saying that incorrectly.
Oh, that's correct.
Okay. Yeah, you have a question?
No, I thought I know why we have to show, I mean, is the evidence is admissible or not? The question that you asked her, I thought I have an answer of that one.
Okay, well, before you give it to it, I just opened up the poll, so everybody put in for question 3 what you think the answer choice is.
Sure. Can you just bring it more? Let me see. Okay, thank you. Let's do.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, put A, B, C, or D, what you think the right answer is here. All right, so let's stick with Kristen on this one. So Kristen, which answer choice did you go with?
Okay, since I'm jumping in the deep end, so I'm stuck between B and C only because I'm trying to make sure I understand the issue. Is it about the fact that the tree was rotted that hit him, or the fact that the tree was rotted, it hit him, and then the defendant cut it down for like culpability? I don't know, because it
And
could
I'm
be
gonna
on
give
his
you,
property.
and so look, I'm gonna give you one more chance. And this is why, Kristen, what we say is why we want to look up our rules, because even when we have our rule in front of us, there can still be a challenge. But what I'll tell you is you've said everything out loud, but I need you to connect the dots here, and there should be then a clear answer. So I'm gonna read the rule and see if we can get this together.
Oh, so okay.
So it says evidence of subsequent remedial measures. So subsequent remedial measures is evidence of doing things after somebody is hurt to try to avoid it again, which is what we have
Okay.
here. It says it's inadmissible to prove negligence, design defect, or products liability, da 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 da. So generally it's inadmissible. However, it is admissible to prove ownership or control if disputed, feasibility of precautionary measures if disputed, or destruction of evidence. So let's go in order here. Kristen, is
Yes.
ownership or control disputed here?
Yes.
Okay, so that's what you missed over the very first time. You
Hmm.
went straight to destruction of the
Of
evidence.
evidence. I didn't go over the, yeah,
Yes.
slow down.
You
Okay.
right, exactly. And this is a little bit different because I know like it makes sense why you thought that, but we're not trying to bring in I don't think this is a typical destruction of the evidence in that we didn't necessarily need that tree anymore, but that's not a bad idea. But the reality is, even if so, you got to follow the facts. And you had already highlighted for us how so much of the facts were going down to this whole the defendant claimed that the tree was on city property. That
Right.
is then him saying, this is not mine. That's the easiest now route to say, oh,
Mhm.
yeah, ownership is disputed.
Right.
And then now, once we have a proper application of the rule, it's very clear that the right answer choice is what?
Um, see,
C. Admissible to show that the tree was on the defendant's property, to show that it in fact is his.
they're right.
Yeah, that is right. That is correct.
Oh,
Here
thank God. Sheesh.
we go. All right, Dr.
Okay.
Gavin, appreciate you raising the hand, man. Go for it.
Yeah. I didn't. I don't got a copy of that slide you sent.
You said what?
I don't have a copy of that slide that you put up.
Well, that's intentional. You got to be inside the bar prep program to get. Look, I don't got a copy of that nice gold chain you got. I'm gonna get one. I need one of
Hey,
those.
go. That's from Egypt when I was in Egypt. That's that's
Uh,
silver.
okay, Kristen.
Just to follow up, just to clarify, I understand how you just walked me through that. So I literally have never taken either one of these two classes, but it's really a skill to read the question, read the rule, and the key is the application, like with the elemental values, like how we reread it again with
Yes.
slower with the steps. So I could literally never have taken this class, but if I see the rule, it's really about the application and the elemental value and going by each one because I've never taken evidence. So
Kristen, ding, ding, ding. You didn't take evidence, but if you can find the rule, right?
right.
And as all of us in here, right, we are
Hmm.
smart individuals, then yeah, it just comes down to can I apply this rule to this
Hmm.
fact pattern? Exactly. And Kristen, I'm so glad that we're seeing everybody, hopefully this like in the moment transformation, because what you were doing a second ago is how we typically go through questions, which is just like, yeah, reading it and yeah, I'm feeling this and this feels right, but feeling is out of it, right? Like you are now a legal robot. It's like fact pattern, what issue, rule, what's the rule for this issue? What's my facts? Apply it, outcome, right? So very good takeaway there. Let's move on to the next question now. All right. And again, in the way that we're doing this session, we keep on, having natural questions that jumps into the next lesson. This lesson is that application is greater than memorization. Okay. Students often miss questions even with the rules. So again, we jumped the gun, but the lesson here is that we want to focus on rule retrieval. Go to your outlines and grab rules. Do not prematurely go into the answer choices. So again, this is really different than what we were talking about in the beginning with Jose, which oftentimes we're going into the answer choices and we're trying a process of elimination where no, this method of what we're doing is we're coming up with our own answer first and then going into the answer choices, and that changes everything. All right. Let me go to Jordan. Jordan, you there? I saw you earlier. Come on back.
Yes, I'm here.
There we go. All right. So let's skim the answer choices and maybe even the call of the question. What subject does this appear to be?
Criminal.
Did you take crim law yet?
Yes.
Okay, so we should maybe be a little refreshed. Over there, I have crim law. Do we know what specifically?
In regards to the criminal law or this
Uh-huh.
question? Um,
This question.
was asking about burglary,
There
so
you go.
burglary.
So we already know the topic. This is one of those good ones. They done tipped us off already, right? We got burglary. So now we know exactly what we're analyzing. Go ahead and start reading your question and practice everything we've done, reading comp, all that stuff.
Okay. A woman told a man to go into her friend's unlocked barn and retrieve an expensive black saddle that she said she had loaned to the friend. So that's, although it's unlocked, it's not consented, so she's still going in unlawfully. The man went to the friend's barn, opened the door, found a black saddle, and took it back to the woman's house. Um, so he took possession that wasn't his. The friend had in fact not borrowed a saddle from the woman, and when the friend discovered her black saddle missing, she suspected that the woman was a thief. Um, the friend used a screwdriver to break into the woman's
Wait,
house.
wait. Oh, hold on, Jordan. You didn't give me that. That was a big sentence right there. So, yeah, go ahead and make sure we're connecting with what exactly is happening.
Okay, so she didn't borrow it, so she stole it. But it's some confusion on who stole it.
Oh, look, you saying he, she would, so who stole it?
It's confusing. It's confusion for the woman because she thinks that somebody else is a thief, but that's not the thief.
Okay, hold on. We got to slow down because you might got it, but I can't tell if you got it. So look, we got the woman, and the woman told who to do what?
The woman told the man to go into her friend's unlocked barn.
So the woman told the man to go into the friend's barn to get this saddle. And she told the man, look, I need you to go get this for me because she's got my saddle. And then it turns out what?
That the friend did not borrow the saddle from the
So
woman.
so in fact, she had the man go and do what?
Steal it.
Steal the friend saddle. There we go. Good. Okay. And then it says the friend had brought, okay. And when the friend discovered her black saddle missing, she suspected. So she also was like, I know who did this. All right. Okay. Go ahead. Continue.
Okay, so the friend used a screwdriver to break into the woman's house to find the saddle. So again, unlawful entry. Uh, upon discovering the saddle on the woman's table, the friend took it back and called the police. So she found it eventually. Uh, the jurisdiction follows a common law, except that burglary covers structures in addition to dwellings, and the nighttime element has been eliminated.
Okay. So if I were to have you shoot from the hip here, who is going to be guilty?
It seems like the friend because he did majority of the work. So
So
B.
go ahead.
B. Or the friend only. Only
So
the
your
friend.
girlfriend. Okay. So, Kristen, I see you shooting. You shot from the hip again pretty quickly. Now, I'm only asking you to shoot from the hip, Jordan, just so we can see what happens when we shoot from the hip versus follow this process. All right. And let's see if you're accurate when you shot from the hip. What I want you to do is focus on application, not memorization. Right now, you're focusing on some level of memorization of the rule of burglary to guide you to that. But let's go ahead and go look up this rule. So we have three people to assess: the woman, the man, and the friend. All right. And then let's go to our crim law outline. Let's see if we have it up already. Is this the outline? I think that was an essay. Yeah. But it's fine. We actually have the elements for burglary from this essay. So we'll just look at this. So D is guilty of common law burglary when the following elements are met: trespassory, breaking and entering, dwelling of another at night with the intent to commit a felony therein. So let's talk about the woman. Well, actually, let's kind of go. Yeah, we can talk about the woman first. So the woman ordered the man to go in there to steal the saddle. Was this trespassory? Was this without permission?
No, because she just ordered him to do it.
Or was that entry without permission though?
Well, yes, the entry was.
So yeah. So again, application, this was still trespassory conduct, right? And so this is going to be an interesting application because you're leaning towards no, but I'm gonna give you the early clue that this is actually yes. So you want to start to skew your answers the other way because then we get into breaking and entering, right? For entering, I think that's the part that you're getting caught up on because typically when somebody burglarizes, they themselves walk into the space. However, you can have instrument by body or entry by what?
Instrument.
Exactly. Or by instrument. And now again, this is not the typical application of instrument. Typically, that's like throwing in like a fishing rod, right? Or something along those lines, and trying to fish something out of the house. However, if you are ordering somebody, do you think it's fair to view that person as an extension of the one that's doing the demands and in control?
No.
Okay, we'll see if the question agrees. But right now you're like, nah, that should not count. But let's see if it does. So then you finish breaking and entering. Was it the dwelling of another at night?
I don't remember if it was at night, but it was the dwelling of another.
Perfect. Let's go back to our fact pattern and see if we have anything in there. A woman told a man to go into her friend's unlocked bar and retrieve a black saddle. She said the man went to the front. Okay, da da da. The friend, in fact. So,
Well,
but it
the
also
nighttime
says
element was eliminated. Yeah.
perfect. Exactly. Good. So we don't have to worry about that. And then was there the intent to commit a felony therein?
Yes, because you're retrieving something that's not yours.
The woman knew that it was not her, so she did have the intent. But you're going with no on the woman because there was no entry. All right, now you go to the man. Now, was the man's entry trespassory?
Yes.
Was it a breaking and entering?
Yes.
A dwelling of another?
Yes.
Intent to commit a felony therein?
Yes.
Okay. And then the friend. Did the friend, was it trespassory?
Yes.
Breaking and entering?
Yes.
Yep, friend went into their house. Okay. Dwelling of another, yes. And then intent to commit a felony therein.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, yeah.
Okay. So then you look to your answer choices and you're in a little bit of a pickle here. Because now you just said that you got man and friend, and that's not in any of your answer choices.
Okay, well, can we go back to the friend? Because it says that he used a screwdriver to break into the woman's house to find something that I'm assuming belonged to him. So is that a felony if it's his?
Okay. And this is where knowing the law, everybody. So when you get to that last element, let's see if we can go ahead and bring up. Oh, here's the elements. So what is the felony that you are thinking that they're trying to commit inside?
Larceny.
Okay, and then larceny requires an intent to permanently deprive. And what does it say under that note?
You cannot commit a larceny of your own items.
Exactly. An owner retrieving their own property back is not a larceny or on behalf of somebody, right? It's going to be that same thing. But here, this is the friend going back and getting their own saddle. So did the friend have an intent to commit a felony therein?
No.
Okay. So then you're going with
See, only the man.
only the man. And unfortunately, Jordan, we're still wrong.
What?
But it's okay, everybody, because being wrong is the best opportunity for lessons. And I'm going to quickly align you with why you want to change that. But this is why, Jordan, I'm telling you, this is why it's important to have your rule by your side. These questions are hard enough, even with going through the elements, let alone if we're trying to do memorization and we get the elements wrong in our head. So that's exactly why going to get your rule and applying it is paramount. The fix right here is very simple. The adjustment that you need to make is that the man did not have the intent to commit a felony therein because the man believed he was doing what?
Taking property that was somebody else's, that was lawfully somebody else's.
Exactly. So the man failed to have intent because he was retrieving it for the woman. And again, this is the part that we talked about this yesterday, right? That accepting it versus challenging it, where we're using people as extension of other people. That's a concept that it's introducing here. And so the man was under the mindset that he was just retrieving something, which again, you can have somebody do, and therefore they did not have the intent to permanently deprive somebody of their own property. So therefore the man is innocent. And then now I want to take you back to the woman, and the woman actually did commit a burglary, and you're going to look at the man as an instrument that she entered by instrument and used that man. So it's just like, all right, you're telling me, one person can use another person as an instrument to commit burglary. Fine, I'll accept it. And it's that straightforward. Does that make sense, Jordan?
Yeah, that makes sense.
And all we do is accept it and move on to the next question to get our next lesson, right? And that's how quick this process has to be. You don't want to sit and wrestle with things and like, oh, I'm confused, and make it more than what it is. Like, you're telling me when a woman sends a man, oh, that's again an extension of her and she's going to be guilty. Okay, cool. Fair enough. All right. And then the big takeaway here was you cannot be guilty of larceny to when you are taking back your own property. Awesome. All right, so let's go ahead and end question 4. We're now going to go on to question 5. Something that we've kind of been doing, but we're going to focus on here, which is now pattern recognition. We talked about this a bit yesterday. 80% of the bar exam should feel familiar when you do sufficient practice. Jordan, how many essays yesterday did we say we wanted to do in practice before the bar exam?
100.
100. How many MBEs do you think you want to do before the exam?
2100.
Yep. My number is 2200, but 2100 is not too bad. So yeah, everybody, anywhere from 2200 and above 2000, right? You're getting that safe zone. But for those that are doing 500 questions, 700 questions, 900 is not enough. 1,000 questions, you need to do more than 2,000 questions, okay? And then as you do these questions, as we're learning today, it's not just about getting them right or wrong. I tell students all the time, I don't even really care if you get questions right or wrong in practice. What I care the most is what, Jordan? If I don't care about whether you get it right or wrong, what do I care the most about?
That you're understanding the law and the patterns within the text.
Exactly. If you learned from it after you were done. right? What do they say? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. So don't beat yourself up when you get a question wrong the first time. But if you get that same question wrong, that means you didn't learn your lesson. All right, so let's go ahead and practice this one. This again, skim the answer choices. This looks like criminal law, right? Got all these crimes. The defendant visited a fellow college student in the student's dormitory room. All right, so we have a defendant, college student, okay, visited. They drank some beer, they're a little tipsy. The student produced a box containing marijuana cigarettes and asked if the defendant wanted one. All right, so the student had some marijuana, asked the defendant if he wanted one. The defendant, afraid of being caught, declined and urged the student to get rid of the marijuana. And the student refused. All right, got a little bit of a whistleblower. Defendant's like, whoa, no, throw these away. Okay, what are you doing with this marijuana? The student said, man, chill out. Okay. Shortly thereafter, both went out to get more beer. Leaving the door to the student's room standing open. Leaving the door to the student's room standing open. So they left, but then they left the door open. Making an excuse about having dropped his pen, the defendant went back into the student's room. Okay, so he's kind of being a little slick, a little agent-like, and sneaks back into the, not sneaks like it is not known, but it kind of has an ulterior motive here. Still apprehensive about their being caught with the marijuana cigarettes, he took the cigarettes and flushed them down the toilet. All right, Jordan, who's upset? Who's mad? Student.
Yeah, the student.
Why is the student mad?
Because they got rid of the marijuana.
You threw away my marijuana. Okay, the student is mad, right? We always say why the party's upset and what do they want, or we always want to identify injuries. So that's an injury, right? We will figure out if it's actually actionable, right? But he took the cigarettes and flushed them down the toilet. He was sure the student was too drunk to notice that the cigarettes were missing. The defendant is charged with larceny and burglary, defined as in the jurisdiction as breaking and entering the dwelling of another with intent to commit a felony therein. He should be found guilty of. So it tells us again, and now we have to do burglary and larceny. All right. Saima, let's come back to you. You want to unmute for me?
Sorry.
All right. Did you follow the fact pattern? It's
Yeah.
okay. Don't lie to me, Saima. Did you follow those facts or no?
No, I'm so sorry.
All good. We'll get you on the next one. All
Okay.
right.
Yeah.
Any volunteers? Who was following that fact pattern? Who wants to go through this one? Raise your hand for me. All right. Closed mouths don't get fed. All right, Linda. Let's do it. Okay, Linda. So first thing we're gonna go through is larceny here. All right.
Okay.
Did he take the cigarettes without permission?
Yes.
Yes. Was it a taking and carrying away?
Yes.
Was it the personal property of another?
Yes.
Was it the intent to permanently deprive?
Yes.
Okay. Are all the elements met?
It seems like they are.
All right. So that means we're going to go with yes, larceny. And then you got burglary. All right. And so let's go back. For burglary here, was there a breaking?
Well, I'm going to say yes, because the second time he entered into the room or the dorm room, he didn't have like specific permission.
Ah, this is great. Linda, this is a classic mixing up of rules. And you almost at this point, I want to say, want to find him guilty because he did some stuff that feels guilty-like, but we can't make them guilty of everything. We want to stay connected to our rule. This is both essays and multiple choice. There's nothing in the breaking rule. What does the rule for breaking say? This element is met when what?
This element, give me 1 second. This element is met when the defendant creates or enlarges an opening for him to enter the property. So there was no enlarging of anything. He simply crossed the threshold and entered the room once again, right? Because there was an excuse of dropping the pen.
But what's the specific fact that we have here that if this was an essay, you would want to point to? There's one fact that you did not use. That's the best fact here for why there was no breaking.
Okay. Making an excuse about having dropped his pen, the defendant went back
Before that.
Before that, shortly thereafter, both went out to get more beer, leaving the door to the student room standing open. So the door was ajar. The door was not closed. Is that what we're looking at?
And when the door is ajar, that typically means like it's cracked. Does this seem like it's ajar, or does it seem more than ajar?
More than ajar.
Exactly, right? So again, it's like that reading comp of just like creating that visual where the door is open. And so if you're walking into an open door, is that a breaking?
I think it
I don't want you to think in that way, right, Linda? Because right now you're putting more work on yourself instead of just instead of just following your rule. Breaking is met when D creates or enlarges an opening for him to enter the property. Did he create or enlarge an opening?
The answer is no.
Exactly. So yeah, Linda, make it simple, right? Where it's just like, look, I don't have to actually think that much. I just got to apply this rule. Did he create an enlarge an opening? No. Right?
No.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then for the record, that whole aspect of permission is up here in trespassory, but it told us how burglary is defined, and it happens to take out the trespassory element.
Okay.
You see, it just goes straight into breaking and entering, excuse me. So, is there a burglary?
No.
No. And this is again, Linda and everybody, again, why we don't want to analyze with emotion, because I agree. I think under emotion, you could easily want to lean towards, burglary. He lied about having to go in for his pen, right? Like there's reasons emotionally to find him guilty. However, application of the law tells us otherwise. But ultimately, that is your outcome. So that means you're going to choose which answer choice?
B.
Yes, and that is the correct answer choice, everybody. B. All right.
Thank you for walking me through that. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, absolutely, Linda. Now, before we're done, this is now going to be one of our last lessons for the day, which is the importance, Linda, of extracting patterns. Because if we do this question and it's like, okay, cool, got it, move on to the next one, we didn't take that extra minute or two to really lock in what we just learned, right? So I'm going to ask you to do it, and then I'll add on to it if I feel like it's necessary. But my question is, what's the takeaway based off of where you fell short? What is the takeaway from this fact pattern that you can log this in your brain so that if you see something similar, you'll be able to answer it quickly?
I think the takeaway is knowing the very specific elements of the different crimes.
And
burglary and larceny, although very similar, still distinct. Like when we were talking about that trespassory element.
Yes, and I'm gonna give you a little bit more guidance and give you one more shot. I want you to be factual with what your takeaway is. So in a way that you kind of have like a little bit of like what this story was and what the outcome was. A quick example would be if I took you out to lunch and I gave you some salsa, and you had it and you immediately had to chug some water. My takeaway is Linda does not like spicy food, right? I took what happened and I summarized it. So then now when we go to lunch again, right, and then they bring out the hot sauce, I'm probably leaning towards not giving you the hot sauce because my pattern has told me Linda doesn't like spicy food. So what I want you to do is try to take the sequence of facts or whatever it is you could summarize that was the focal point of this question. So when you see it in a different way, you can immediately recognize it.
Right.
Does that make sense, what I'm saying?
Yes. Yes.
So do you want to give that a shot, or do you want me to give you an example of how that would look with this fact pattern?
So I think you're getting at the fact that I was zeroing in too much about the door being open. Is that what you're getting at? So
Um,
just kind of like take a broader
no,
look
so
at the facts.
yeah, so here be an example of what I want you to everybody to do. So after finishing this question, a pattern recognition for this is okay. One thing that I think was a focal point here that we didn't talk about too much, but was part of, I'm sure, the subconscious for all of us is like, well, is he going to be guilty of anything? Because he was actually taking somebody's illegal contraband, right? Their illegal items, marijuana. When we're on the bar exam, we assume that it's illegal, right? Federally, it's not legal. So, one takeaway, Linda, is when somebody is stealing, taking, destroying another person's drugs or other illegal items, that still counts as a larceny. That's one takeaway. So if in the next hypo, it's, somebody goes into somebody's place to steal their cocaine, we're going to quickly say, oh, yeah, that's a larceny if they took the cocaine. So one takeaway is when you're taking somebody else's drugs, that's actually still a larceny, even though it's illegal. And then another one is, okay, so reminder to self, it is not a burglary if the door is open. If the door is open and the breaking element is there, no matter the circumstances, it simply is not a burglary. And that is our important takeaway. So then now,
Okay.
Linda, when we change the facts and it says, right, you know, after lunch, we go back towards my car, but I leave my car door wide open, and then you go into my car door, go into my car, and you take my cell phone charger. Is that going to
Right.
be a burglary? Quickly, the answer is
Quickly, the answer is yes.
no. The answer is no. Did you see how I just gave you the same pattern? My car door was wide open, same as this dorm room door was wide open, and that was the reason why that wasn't a burglary.
Sorry, I zoned out for 2 seconds. I
Oh,
apologize. I
no
missed that
worries.
whole car door being open.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes the verbal facts are a little bit hard to keep up with, so I'll give you credit. Sometimes I need to see it written down. But all that to say, do you see what I'm getting at here as far as the
Yes,
power and the importance of patterns?
pattern recognition. Right. No, you're right. Absolutely.
So the last thing I want to say, Linda, about this, and then I'll take your question, Dr. Gavin. Last thing I want to say about this, everybody, is that there's only so many ways to test these rules.
Right.
Right? Like, how many ways can you have a burglary? Like, how many ways can you have a battery? How many ways can you have an easement? There's only so many ways to test these things. So once you start gaming this exam and realizing all they're doing is changing the parties' names and the surface facts, but it's still the same pattern at its core, that's when you start analyzing faster, analyzing with more accuracy, because like, oh yeah, I've seen this before,
Right.
right? Linda,
Yes.
what do you do for work, Linda?
I actually am a paralegal at an estate planning law firm.
Okay. So in a law firm, in estate planning, when the client comes in of, I have these type of assets, X number of dollars, right, et cetera, the idea is not that, oh, we're doing this from scratch all over on how does one then, right, we plan out their estate planning. It's like, oh, we've done this before, and sure, this person might have a Ford F-150 instead of a Ferrari, but it's still a car, right, or X number of assets. So everything about the legal field and about a lot of things that we do is about pattern recognition.
Yes.
So yeah, that is
Yes.
just the mindset, everybody, that I want to make sure you walk away today with, because you got to play the game. If you're looking at each question as just this opportunity of, did I get the question right? Okay, move on. You're not picking up on the patterns that are going to prepare you for the next time you see something similar.
Thank
Awesome.
you.
Of course.
Yes. Thank you.
All right, Dr. Gavin. Come on, Dr. Gavin. He looking for the unmute button. I'm gonna put you on the shot clock, man. Okay. We gonna come back to you. Julio, you got a question?
Yes, you answered my previous question about if the object was illegal, the property, and okay, and that just clarifies something for me. But I also wanted to clarify that larceny doesn't always equate to theft. If you could, for example, destroy a potted plant from someone, that would still be larceny, since you're depriving them of their property. Is that correct?
It depends on the circumstances. If you didn't take it and carry it away, then that's not a larceny.
Okay, would knock it off because basically when you knock it off the table, that's basically moving it, right?
So yeah, and as I'm saying, it all depends on the facts. Because if I drove my car through your garden and destroyed it, right, there's no taking and carrying away, so that wouldn't be a larceny. But if, I touched it, grabbed it, pushed it, and destroyed it, then yeah, you can argue larceny. So it all depends on that taking and carrying away aspect.
Okay, thank
Yes. All right, let's go ahead and move on to our last question. So for our last question here, everybody, we're going to revisit question number 6. Let me show you or remind you all of what we did before. 77% of us chose B, and then 23% of us chose C. We're going to do this question again now, and we're going to do it with the steps that we've done before, that we've learned today. So first, we're going to skim the answer choices. Landowner's title was challenged, included the covenant of warranty. All right, so this looks like property. Okay, and maybe covenants, or there's warranty, so maybe deeds, so something property. Cool, that's all we need. Quick, in and out, can't spend too much time there. A landowner owned Blackacre, so always diagram I like to do. Blackacre, you got landowner. Owned Blackacre and fee simple and conveyed Blackacre to a teacher by warranty deed. What you got? You got your mute off? Hold on, give us a second now. You're gonna have to wait till after this question, all right?
Go ahead.
Okay, so we have a conveyance by warranty deed. Rule of thumb, if you haven't learned already, whenever it says warranty deed, we interpret that as a general warranty deed. Okay, that's a pro tip. An adjoining owner asserted title to Blackacre and brought appropriate action against the teacher to quiet title to Blackacre. So an adjoining owner versus the teacher. Again, reading comprehension. So basically, after receiving Blackacre, out of nowhere, adjoining owner comes out and says, you know what, Blackacre is actually mine. All right, and is now suing teacher to get Blackacre. The teacher demanded that the landowner defend the teacher's title under the deed's covenant of warranty. Teacher said, hey, I actually need landowner. I need you to come in and actually fight against AO for this lawsuit. The landowner refused. The teacher then successfully defended at her own expense. Teacher then paid money and ended up winning the case. The teacher has now brought an appropriate action against the landowner for not basically handling this. So now you got teacher versus landowner. So ultimately, this question comes down to what? Was the landowner responsible for this lawsuit? And it, again, is telling us that we're focused on this covenant of warranty under the general warranty deed. So therefore, we should have spotted this issue. And now we're going to go to our answer choices. I'm going to start the poll for number 6 here, give you an opportunity to either select your same answer or change it. So here we got the section on deeds. Here's your general warranty deeds. And the covenant of warranty is right here. Let me zoom in for you. There's your rule. So now I need you to look at your rule. Grantor promises to defend the property on behalf of the buyer / grantee in the event that third parties make a valid claim that that the property is theirs. All right, so that's our rule. And then now let's go back to the question. And everybody go ahead and put in your answers. Yes, Carla. All right, put your answers in. All right. So now we have 63% chose B, 25% chose C, and 13% chose D. Again, the question here is, was the landowner responsible for handling this lawsuit? And the answer is no, the landowner was not required to. Again, everybody, what we're seeing is even when we have the rule, which is why I want you to always go look it up, because just adding in memorization is one other layer for an unnecessary reason to get questions wrong. Because even when looking it up, we're not getting it correct. Let me go ahead and lock the voting here. This says that the grantor promises to defend the property on behalf of the buyer grantee in the event that third parties make a valid claim that the property is theirs. Julio, can you see what it is about this rule and why it's playing out to where the grantor, the landowner, did not have to handle this lawsuit?
Well, because the claim was not valid. The adjacent owner did not have a valid claim to the property.
Exactly. And we know that the claim was invalid because the facts tell us what? The teacher successfully defended. So the teacher won. So this was not a valid claim. So again, emotionally, right, Julio, we could all feel for the teacher here. Man, the teacher just got this house, maybe paid for it, whatever, gifted, and then out of nowhere, this person's coming out and saying that it's actually there. You kind of want to be mad at the landowner. But at the same time, Julio, this could also just easily be a situation which somebody is just popping out of the woodworks to say that the house is theirs. If I sell you a house, Julio, and then out of nowhere, Linda wants to say that house is actually mine, should I be responsible for handling that lawsuit?
Well, no, when you put it that way, but I still kind of go against. I understand what you're saying, but
Look,
even when
and that's Julio. I'm not even gonna let you finish that because that's what we talked about yesterday. You can't. I still go against it. You got to accept it,
the
right?
facts, I get it. But so this is a question then. I'm going to put it that way. The fact that the teacher won was after the whole claim. When does the owner or the previous owner of the property have to come into the aid of the buyer?
Only when we know that it's a successful claim, and if the buyer, if the landowner refuses, the grantor refuses, right? It's going to come down now to the success of the lawsuit. Because if the adjoining owner won, then when the teacher sues the landowner for all the lawyer fees and all that stuff, now the teacher's going to win.
Okay. No, I see.
You said what?
Against the landowner afterwards,
Say it
after the
again.
fact. That it would be another suit in case the adjacent landowner won, then at that point you can bring a suit against the previous owner.
Exactly, because it was a valid claim.
Mm.
And so when we're
I
talking
got
about takeaways, Julio, the takeaway is that, and again, right, we got to simplify it and accept it. When one person sells house to another, they are not responsible for any and every claim by a new person saying that the house is actually theirs. They're only responsible for valid claims, but they're not responsible for any and every claim, especially ones where people are just claiming that it's theirs. And we don't have any grounds for why this is a valid claim. If it gave us more facts, even though the teacher won, if they gave us more facts for how and why this was a valid claim, maybe. But there's no facts to suggest how this adjoining owner actually has a valid claim. You see what I'm saying?
Yes, yes, I see it now. And to tell you the truth, now that I'm rereading number C, then it kind of makes more sense. It was kind of like I just went over it. Once I read B, I just kind of just went over the other choices
Yes.
because I just chose B right off the bat.
And that's the thing, is that, like, this is why I was saying, everybody, this is why you don't want to just go into the answer choices to see which answer sounds good, because B sounds great. The teacher, because the landowner's deed to her included the covenant of warranty. Yeah, this was a general warranty deed. Yeah, it did have a covenant of warranty. However, the covenant of warranty was not violated. So B sounds really great. However, it's not the best answer because, in fact, the covenant of warranty was not violated. So again, everybody, go grab your rules. For 70% of your practice questions, I want you to do 2,200 questions. For 70% of those or more, have your outline by your side. Go grab your rule, right? Practice your application of the rule. By doing that, you're going to remember the rule, right? Jose, is it a larceny when you're taking back your own items?
No.
You didn't have to memorize that because we just did that in such an intensive way that you now remember that, you recall that, right? As opposed to like strict memorization of a rule. So stop everybody focusing so much on memorization of rules as much as application of rules, and focused on patterns that you sit with for a second. And then those become memories that you have in this whole legal studying. So that is how most people progress through this, because if you just memorize words on a page, it's not going to improve your ability to apply. For example, if we all just memorized that covenant of warranty and applied it, we just looked at the rule and we still didn't get it right. So memorization only takes you so far. Okay. What else? Go grab your rules. And let me pass it. Well, we're going to come back to it. Let me go ahead and stop sharing here. That was the end of our questions. Let's wrap our slides and then we'll do, get from you guys what your main takeaways from today are. So here we go. So what you experienced tonight was a structured approach, right? No more freestyling. A structured approach to reading questions strategically, identifying the issues being tested, applying rules with precision, avoiding traps and the answer choices, right? By coming up with your answer first, and then recognizing recurring MBE patterns. This is also a glimpse into the Legally Fit system that we use inside of our bar prep. If you need more help, everybody, if you're studying for the July 2026, we can still help you even if you are in another program. Email ma@legallyfitstudent.com and just comfortably tell us, what is it that you need help with? Do I need help better understanding property law, all the subjects? Do I need help working on my essay skills, MBE skills? And if so, what are you looking for? Am I looking for coaching? Am I looking for resources? Am I looking to improve this or that? Tell us in a very detailed manner what you're looking for, and we'll be very clear on how we can help you. All right, these are some of the things that we have, but again, we're always here to help in however we can, even if it's not something listed on our website. And if you're studying for 2027 or beyond, you can go to our website to learn more information, and you can actually sign up to join our bar prep program. And we have early prep as well to start gearing up early. And then we also allow you to book a consultation call if you have questions about the course and that you want to get answered if you're interested in signing up. Let's make sure we also do a special thank you again to the sponsors of this event. We would not be here today if it wasn't for Black Women Lawyers Association of Los Angeles and John M. Langston Bar Association. They are the ones that hosted this event to make it free for you all to get some resources to put you in a better position to pass. Here's their contact information. These are great organizations. Highly recommend you become a part of them. Not only do they put on events like this, they have galas, they have scholarships, they have networking events, social events, all kind of things. Both of them are based in the Los Angeles area. However, these are still great orgs to be a part of, and they do have presence in other states and people that travel. Very, very great orgs if you're looking to be a part of a bar association. Awesome. All right. Let me go to Kristen. Kristen, what was your takeaway from today?
Well, I had a few. The first one is slow down.
Yes.
The second one is there's a method to the madness, right? If you're under, and really application. Those are my three key takeaways from today.
Man, all three of those individually are standalones that are great. And everybody, right? Like, I want to really make sure that that one sinks in of just like the power of slowing down. You know, on any given day, we have so much to do. So I'm just, running through these practice questions. Kristen, one could do 5,000 practice questions before the bar exam. But if you ran through all of them in such a way that you don't recall any of it and you just, went through it like, right? You could binge watch a show right now, but if you're doing a bunch of stuff, you're not paying attention, you're not going to be able to tell me anything about that show the next day. And that is, again, time wasted. All of this is about retention and remembering the practice, because then you see the patterns and how they're similar on the day of the exam. So slow down was a great one. Julio, you got a takeaway?
Yes, and I just want some clarification because I was trying to look for patterns. And then we see here the two property questions that we had, where we had actually two good answers on both questions, but one answer focuses in the general. Like, for example, one focused on remedial measures and the other one focused on warranty deeds. And then the other one focused in a specific element of the rule. So when we have two answers like that in general, just your opinion, when we have two questions, we narrow it down to two questions like that, one that speaks in general to the rule and one that speaks specifically to an element of the rule. We should probably go with the element answer rather than the general answer.
I don't ever look at two answer choices that way in comparison, so I don't have to make that decision, Julio. My process is always do the analysis myself, assess the outcome, and know the main reason why. And when you know the outcome and the main reason why, now I'm just looking for the answer choice that best embodies that or speaks to that and like is aligned with that. That is your rule of thumb to where the best answer will pop out. Because if that answer choice is not aligned with either the outcome or the main reason, right, and the other one is, then I'm going with the other one. So try to practice that. Like, so the one that we just did, what was the outcome and the main reason? The outcome was that the landowner is not responsible for this lawsuit, and they're not responsible for this lawsuit because the covenant of warranty was not violated due to there not being a valid claim by the third party. C becomes the best answer, and that it's consistent with that thought process. It says the landowner is going to win because the title the landowner conveyed was not defective. That's consistent with there not being a valid claim, right? B, the one that you were in between, is wrong because it says the teacher won. And that's an inconsistent outcome. We just said that the landowner actually is going to win. So that's how I would do that. All right. And then, yeah. And then one last takeaway before we wrap up. Jose, what's your takeaway from today?
Process. And I think it's about having a game plan to game the bar exam,
That's
right? And not so much rely on instinct or memory, but have a process.
Look, Jose, what's your favorite sport?
Oh, right now, I'm watching the NBA finals right now.
Okay. You think the Spurs are going to go into game one without a game plan?
No.
You think they going in there and just playing pickup basketball? Like, all right, let's just see what they do. And let's see how we feel that day. Let's see who's going to be our featured player today.
No, they're watching film.
They're watching film. They're studying patterns. Oh, when this player goes this way, they like to do this. Oh, when they do this, they like to do that. They're studying patterns. They're practicing and practicing. They're practicing on fundamentals, right? In practice, which is also consistent with bar prep, how much are they actually scrimmaging, Jose, as opposed to doing drills in practice?
It's probably like 80% drills with like 15, 20% scrimmaging.
That's exactly why, Jose, I'm telling you with essays and multiple choice, I want you to do 80% drills, use your materials, use your practice questions, and then 20% is actually test mode. You don't get better by just doing test mode, same way you don't get better by just doing games and scrimmaging. You get better by the individual skills. So this is no different, great takeaway, and I hope everybody is also hearing that and gonna implement that this is all about repeatable process, right? For the essay, the PT, the MBE. If you go in and you're winging it, you're putting yourself at risk of not passing. Awesome. With that said, everybody, this is part 2 of a 3-part series. We will be back, not this week, but next week. Let me look up in the calendar when it is. And we're going to be doing the PT session. And so that's going to be next Thursday, June 11th. We'll be back here to go through some PT strategy. Until then, I expect you all to be implementing what we've just done over the past 2 days. And I can't wait to see some familiar faces and hear how you've implemented these steps. Know that it's going to take time to implement, and you gotta, as Kristen said, slow down and go grab your rule. Slow down before you go to the next question and extract your pattern, right? Slow down for reading comprehension. So take your time. I know it's a little slower, but this is how you grow. All right, you guys, I'll stick around if you guys have any questions. Good stuff today, and I'll see you all next week. You're welcome, Jordan. You're welcome, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. You're so welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good evening.
You as well.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you, my brother. You're doing a fine job.
Oh, appreciate you, Dr. Gavin. Take care, brother.
All right.